Welcome to another edition of the Keep Africa Trading Podcast. My name is Moses Kemibaro and I'm your host. This podcast is part of Trademark Africa's podcasting platform that allows us to share stories and conversations around trade in Africa and, more importantly, people who are doing interesting things to make it really thrive across the board. Our guest is going to go deep into what is involved in creating the various frameworks and strategies around creating digital trade opportunities for Africa across the spectrum. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So maybe you can introduce yourself, your role, and what it is that you do.
Sure. My name is Shuti Mbabazi. I lead the Better Than Cash Alliance that is hosted by the United Nations Development Programme's Sustainable Finance Hub. And we are in the business of really accelerating the transition from cash to digital. And of course, in the context of digital innovation and particularly trade, working alongside the Secretariat the AFCFTA Secretariat to ensure that digital payments that are in the market are serving everyone, including the most invisible but powerful trader as well at the land borders. Today, those are digitally excluded, financially excluded in many ways. So how do we ensure that the AFCFTA is for them? So I'm happy to be here and to learn and to, especially, hopefully by the next one, to see meaningful impact in the lives of people.
So the theme of our conference is digital trade. And I'd like to hear your perspective and thoughts around that in the context of Africa, and more importantly, around what Trademark Africa is also doing across the continent.
Sure. So there is no digital trade one without the digital foundations. Particularly, one must have a device. It must be connected. And then they must have a customer that they're going to serve, and they need to have a supplier that can provide them with the goods if they're not the inventor of the service or good. So the easiest way to connect that is really through digital trade. And there is no completion of transaction unless the payment happens. So today, most trade payments are really a pain for the trader. For the one that is banked, they have to pay a hefty amount in sending money for whatever goods they're buying across the border. Typically, it is with services like SWIFT, Western Union, and others, which is very expensive. I think any transaction can cost you anywhere from $30 and more. And if you are a trader, every cent or penny or dollar counts. And because it's a send money transaction, you are charged the send money cost, and you're also charged the FX, the foreign exchange amount, which first starts most likely in a third currency. So it's very expensive.
You're losing on both sides.
Yes. It's very expensive. And in some instances, as was my experience recently when I paid in Egypt, I sent money for goods and I chose to bear the cost as the sender, but still the trader on the other side was charged an amount, right? So altogether, it cost about $50 or slightly more to send about $600. And that is 10% just going, and borne especially by the customer. So that is not fair. And we really need to make payments work. For the border at the trader, at the land border, most of the time they're not even visible to the numbers. When they say Africa's trade is about 16% intra-African trade, that number is way more, because for centuries, communities at the borders have been transacting. It's just that it is done all in cash and paper-based and all of that.
Sometimes bartering even.
There we go. And so we need to make payments work for everyone. And for the majority who are women and youth, they don't have the luxury of assets that can be collateral. And so with digital innovation, their cash flow can be their collateral, but they've got to make that transaction a digital one. It can't happen with cash because now the risk increases. So from where we stand, this is a foundation that is necessary for payments to be interoperable, for merchant payments to be the mode with which people transact for buying and selling of goods, not the typical remittance, which is quite expensive. And when I think there was a study that was done that said it costs Africa, is it $5 billion annually to transact with each other? And that is just on the cost of transacting. I also envision that the traders may no longer need to travel across the border anymore because they now have a digital platform against which they can see their fellow trader on the other side and the goods they have for the day and buy them, order them, pay for them, and then a young person will bring them on a bicycle or tricycle across the border, and they don't have to wake up early, go through the border process, on as they exit, go to the market, carry all of that back, walk up to the market to sell it to their customers. All of that can be done digitally, and it is digital innovation and digital trade that makes that happen. The easy access to through the border, whether it's a person walking on foot or a truck, it's all possible. And it's a matter of our customs systems coming together and interoperating, which is basically speaking to each other, and that payment systems also speak to each other so that the journey is made so much simpler. The way that I saw traders in 2011 crossing with a basket of cassava at the DRC and run the border, it continues today.
Same thing.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be the same in the next 5 years. And the AFCFTA protocol on digital trade gives us that. The rich demographic that has all these innovations in our youth to solve these problems can be harnessed. So I see a time where the lady, maybe unless she does it by choice, but when we make this protocol on digital trade a reality, now that movement can be a digital one, where it's just the cassava now that is going to cross, but her device would have placed the order, made the payment, arranged the logistics to pick it up, and then it's delivered, confirmed digitally. Then they can, especially these women, can spend more time with their children. They can spend more time doing other things, and it doesn't all have to get lost on the journey and all the indignities that may come with that as they face various border experiences.
I know. There's very scary stuff there, especially for women.
Yes.
And you know, it's kind of fascinating with the way you just put it, which is the idea that it's not simply overlaying a digital process on a legacy approach. It's literally rethinking how we do these things, hence no border. Does she physically have to go?
Yeah,
Can she just give it to a logistics partner who delivers and does that? And she is able to track and see. So that really kind of breaks the mold in terms of how things have been done, right?
And and we're seeing this at the Zimbabwe-Zambia border. There's a young logistics company started by very young Africans called Tumeza. And her task is to take the goods, pick up goods, deliver them. And even from that, she's been able to add credit facilities. They've been able to add credit facilities for the traders. So by solving this time consuming, and I'm sure you've heard the term of time poverty, the time poverty for the millions of women and youth at the border is huge. And the only solution to that is really governments doing everything possible to create an enabling environment for private investment to happen. Because the good news is that digital inclusion, financial inclusion are profitable ventures. They're not things for government to do. It's for the private sector to invest. They're ready to invest. They've already invested. With few regulatory tweaks, it can be transformational. And I really want to see that happen before 2030.
So there's a lot of promise and a lot of opportunity around digital trade. But it's always the case when technology and these conversations happen. I always fear for us leaving the underserved or under included in these moments. How do we make sure that we don't leave anyone behind? Even as we find, for instance, people don't even have smartphones in many rural and peri-urban areas of the countries that are in Africa.
And that's why Better Than Cash, organizations like Better Than Cash Alliance exist, is that we ensure that we put a megaphone on leaving no one behind, and that policies are intentionally inclusive, and they don't stop on paper in calling for inclusion. They action that. South Korea, to enable as much of the digital transformation that they experienced between I think in the late 60s, 70s,
yes,
is they required corporates to ensure that they taught grandmothers digital skills, because they're the ones who spend the most time with their children, with their grandchildren, grandparents, I should say. And that was CSR done by corporate entities that are doing connectivity. So they had to ensure that connectivity was there, ensure that the skills are there. And as such, the digital dividend has been realized. Who could think that in 1960, Ghana and Ethiopia had a better GDP than South Korea?
Imagine that.
And largely due to industrialization, especially from a digital front as well. They've been able to, I think by 2008, they were among the top 15 economies in the world. That's the power. Now, if we come together as 55 countries to do this and get it done, already MNOs are there and they're giving phones on credit.
Correct.
There are countries like Rwanda that have started these initiatives for smartphones as little as 1,000 francs a month that come with data. It's all possible. I think it's a matter of that removing the headaches, the tariffs on digital devices, or whatever it is that is going to drive ubiquitous access for everyone. And then we learn from the experience of transforming lives. And then we can regulate based off of what we are learning. What we see most of the time is the fear, and it's warranted. Fear of shaking up the financial system or whatever it is. But we cannot live in fear. On the other side of fear is success. So we need to do what we've set out to do in the protocol on digital trade, give it a chance through proofs of concept, learn as much as we can, and then do what is necessary to ensure that every household, at least every trader, has a digital tool in their hand. They're able to pay and be paid the way they want and need to be paid. And really, innovation is the only one. We see pockets of that everywhere, right? It doesn't make sense today that someone who has M-Pesa in Namanga on the Kenya side cannot make a merchant payment to someone with M-Pesa in the Tanzania side. It's a shilling and a shilling. It's M-Pesa and M-Pesa.
Correct.
That is a regulatory opportunity that can be solved. In 30 minutes, these services can work. The regulator simply needs to allow this to happen, and the protocol on digital trade is a good foundation on which they can stand to test out, and we see what happens.
One of the things I see, and in the conversations we've been having during this particular conference, is this concern around regulations, policies, and government's role across all our countries, where sometimes we create these unnecessary walls because we want to maintain our sovereignty, our identity. We want to potentially protect our traders versus the other way around. What are your thoughts around that as we sort of come to the end of our conversation?
I think the SG put it best, right? We're not going to become a one Africa market when we are focused on the national market. Obviously, it's the first step. But what has it yielded for your people so far? If you think about the borderless nature of the digital opportunity, exactly what are you protecting? Today, we are all consumers of WhatsApp. No one trained us on it. Government is probably not receiving taxes on it. Nothing. But everyone, WhatsApp me, WhatsApp me, WhatsApp me. How about the innovations that we have here on the continent? Why can't they be as easily exported as WhatsApp, which wasn't even given permission to be exported. It just arrived, right?
It's completely borderless.
Right, and we're not the beneficiaries of all the resources that are coming out of it. The data is not ours. The profits are not ours. Nothing is ours. So when you think about we're already late. We're already late. So governments really have got to be bold and see there are things that must be protected for sure. But when it's to just enable me to buy that shirt from you that you've made, what are they what are they fearing for enabling that trade to happen, right? That I'm buying from a fellow African. What is there? What is the lack? What is, especially if that government is in the African Union, has equally agreed to do what they've put on paper, has lived up to their promise. Now do the needful. The AFCFTA is not for government. The AFCFTA is for you, is for me, is for the trade at the border. It's for everybody to simply buy and sell to each other. And should we choose to come and touch and feel these shirts, that we should be able to do that with ease. Surely there is no complexity in that. What are we fearful of? And you will hear about immigration and people coming and illegal things coming. That's where the rule of law comes in. That's where the strength of your national systems come in. But it's got to be easy for me to take a wonderfully made shirt from wherever it's made, especially if you're in a place where I can't make it. It should be that easy. And equally, it should be easy for me to visit your shop, visit your factory, and order even more for my family, for my village, for everyone else who loves the shirt to access it. And I think we need to move away from the technical conversations and move to, in real life, what does this mean? It just means allow me to pay him for the shirt, and I receive it very easily. And if I need to go there, let it not be super expensive and prohibitive, that it's still difficult to move things. And for logistics to happen, can it be as simple as possible? And I think these are the questions to ask government. What are you going to do to enable me to buy that jacket from
That person,
your village,
right.
from the tailor in your village? It's that simple.
I had a personal experience where, as a lady who's in my Rotary Club, and we had an event, and she had gone to Ghana. She travels a lot, and she had this incredible garment. So I like African wear. I buy from all over the countries when I travel, and I was like, I want that. I want something like that. And when I spoke to her, she gave me the WhatsApp number of the shop where she got it from. It's a small trader somewhere in Accra. So we started talking on WhatsApp. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to buy. And then it became complicated. Like, it became a question of, how do I get it to you? What is it going to cost? And you could tell there's a small artisanal kind of shop business person. At the end of it, I couldn't actually do the transaction, And I was like, how is this even possible? Because she had to physically be in Ghana to buy it.
Can you imagine?
So every time she travels there, she buys more from the same person. But it literally was not seeming logistically practical.
And why is that?
I don't know.
The answer is enabling that protocol on digital trade to be a reality. I endeavor to wear Made in Africa every single day when I can get it. It took me, I don't know how long, to get my Made in Kenya bag. Kenya, right here. The gentleman is online, Joka Jok.
I know him,
all of this, But because I could not pay, it was bank transfers, it was this, and I told him, I'm going to wait until I can pay you. But even then, I had to use a tool that is not African to make that payment. How do we ensure that is happening in Morocco? It's a cash economy and they prefer it. The argan oil that is so famous and grows freely in parts of Morocco, the cooperatives doing that work, I'm sure, are paid in cash, prefer cash, because there is no bank anywhere. There is no It's not
the way it
close
operates,
to that.
yeah.
Yes. So we really have got to be thinking of everyone with everything that they're doing. How do we get it to this huge market of $1.4 billion people? For me, I think that's the most exciting thing. And I think policymakers need to think about that. How do I get this lovely garment from Ghana to be seen by 1.4 billion people? And that's only those living on the continent. There are Africans also across the world. So I see the potential of digital breaking down these walls. I've seen the journey of Rwanda on the digital front and where we are today and where we could potentially go, and we will go because of the decisive nature of leadership to get it done. If we can have more and more decisive leadership and commitment to ease the life of the ordinary citizen to get what they need, that is what this is about. It's all comes from trade, and we've got to digitalize it so that everyone can afford to be able to get that shirt as they want it from wherever it is across the continent.
Absolutely. So as we come to the end of our conversation, I'll have maybe two more questions. One is, I think, understanding what is your drive or your passion for what you do and the impact it brings to the marketplace. And also how maybe people can find you online or your organization so that if they want to reach out and engage with you, they can do so.
Sure. Better Than Cash Alliance is on LinkedIn. It's on X. We have a great website, and people can reach us through that website. For me, what drives me, I'm a child of social entrepreneurs.
Okay.
I have had the privilege, even though at that time I didn't realize it, of taking Rwandan baskets to a flea market. And then seeing that basket come from a flea market to Macy's online. But mostly the transformation of my small contribution at the flea market, or driving my mom up and down the coast of in the United States to sell these baskets that were made by Rwandan women who had been paid a decent wage, whose lives were transforming, has always been a top driver. The other was on the front of my mother's journey is the fight for them to live in their country, Rwanda, and for every Rwandan to live here. So the liberators who gave everything, even their lives, for us to come back. And even though we came back to a country that was empty and stripped of everything, the journey to today, that I could be in Rwanda and raise children here and really love the experience having come here as a teenager, is the most inspiring thing, is that we've been given so much. We don't have to fight the same. The only fight we have is economic prosperity for everybody. And it's in our hands and in our grasp to get it done. And it's especially enjoyable when everyone has the same equal opportunity. And with digital tools, which I have seen transform lives and communities, I know that everyone can apply themselves and be able to use these tools to earn a living. And it shouldn't matter that you're blind or that you're deaf or you're in a rural area or have no arms. The innovations have to serve everyone, and we have to ensure that from the start, they are also part of the process in building what suits them, and that this huge market potential of 1.5 billion people does not leave them in poverty, but rather elevates the entire continent. And so for me, that is my drive, is prosperity in every household, and with digital playing a big part, as we've seen it really, really transform lives and villages and economies, and it can transform our continent.
Wow, I think that is a perfect place to stop. Thank you so much for the time. I know you're pressed for time, you're about to travel, but I do appreciate you joining us for this podcast. It's been such a pleasure and so insightful.
Thank you. I look forward to
Yeah.
It's the
So,
same way.
so there you have it. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the Keep Africa Trading podcast from Trademark Africa. My name is Moses Kemibaro. I was your host, and we hope we'll catch you in more conversations that we'll be having right here at the Africa Trade Development Forum in Kigali, running on the 2nd and 3rd of December 2024. We hope to catch you in the next one.